In this video, we're going to take a look at Access 2013, Chapter 1, Skill-Based Training. In Access, we're going to look at our data a little differently than we did with Word and Excel. So it is a bit of a change away from some of the norms that we're used to, although you're going to see some similarities to Excel Chapter 4. So it's actually a nice segue away from Excel Chapter 4 and right into Access. Fortunately for us, this particular training really takes it nice and slow, and we're just going to kind of dip our toes in and do some basic stuff in this first training. First, we're going to launch Access 2013, and we're going to open up an existing Access database. Now, it's not listed here, and we are looking for one with this name, A01H1 Traders. So what we're going to do is we're going to open other files, and it doesn't really mention this here in the instructions, but what we're looking for is a file in the My Documents folder. So we're going to click on Computer, go to My Documents, and that file should be sitting right there. You can click on it and say Open. Now, you'll notice this in some other documents in Office as well. There's a security warning that always pops up. We typically only open our Office documents read-only now, just in case there might be some malicious code, or even just to avoid any accidental changes. So the active content has been disabled. You can click here for more details, but in order to actually make any modifications to the document, we need to enable that content. So you're going to notice this in quite a bit of the steps, especially in Access. Now, you'll notice over here on the left there's several different types of Access objects. There's tables, queries, and later on we're going to get into forms and reports. These are all different components that all live within the same Access file. And in this case, we're going to use the navigation pane over here, and we're going to open the Customers table. Just double click on it, and it'll open up in this window over here. Now you'll notice here, when you look at this, it looks just like a table that we used in Excel, with the headers up top, and then all of our related data down below. And it's very similar, and there's a lot of similarities with this, ways we can sort and filter. But we're going to notice once we start to link all of these different tables of data together, we can start to look at our data almost kind of in a 3D mode. Not only are we going to look at individual customers, but those customers are related to the orders they place, and those orders are related to the products that they chose to purchase, and all of the details about those orders and products can all be linked in. So that's basically what we're looking at here. We're going to change this view to a design view, and now here we get to define exactly what types of data are going to be placed into that table. Notice these are all just set as short text for right now. We're going to get into that a little bit deeper in a later chapter. But this can kind of force us to put in only data that we're expecting to see. If we're looking for a number, we shouldn't see letters A through Z. We should only see the number itself. So this allows us to really focus what type of data is allowed to be entered, how long those strings can be, and a couple other things. Sometimes we just want to see a date format. We want to make sure that it looks like a date or looks like a phone number. So we have ways using the data type to zone in on those things. We're going to collapse the queries group so that only the other ones show up. This is really just used for us so that we don't have too much to look at. We can close that on down and it shrinks it down. Next, we're going to look at the employees table in Datasheet view. And here again, it's that very familiar Excel look from the prior chapters. And in the fourth record, we're going to make a change. We're going to change this data from Peacock to Fox, and then hit Tab. We can undo that change by clicking the Undo button. We can also use Control-Z to do our undos. But you'll notice that data changes immediately, and it's actually saved to the database right away. We're working with live data here. So if we undo it, it just makes another change to flip it back. Now we're going to change that last name to Fox again. So we've demonstrated that we can undo and that we can redo. and all of this data is actually happening live. We can close the table, just right click and say close, and then that table goes away, never asking us to save. That data is saved immediately. We're going to see later there are some areas that we do need to do saves, but that's not one of them. So now we're in the products form. You'll notice with the tables it looked like Excel up here, but now we're looking at forms, and these are different ways we can choose to set up and view our data and enter data and look up data. In this case, we're going to search for a particular product in this form, and we're going to search for one down here in this little tiny search box, and we're going to search for the word grandma. And it's going to bring up the first one that meets that requirement. So we can quickly search through our products to find a product that meets that that word grandma. Now we're going to create a blank record in the form. We can also use these buttons down here. There's this one that has an arrow pointing to, I don't know, the Big Bang or something, and you can click on that and it creates a new record. Now in the product name field we can fill in Julie's pecan pie. And then you're going to notice something else kind of cool about Access. Because we're linking this data in with other things, even though we're entering a product, we're going to pull our list of suppliers from another table. And that list of suppliers is going to come from this table over here. And all the supplier data can exist in its own space. But that's how they're linked. We can see that Grandma Kelly's Homestead is one of our suppliers. If we add in a supplier, it's going to be added to that drop-down list automatically for us. So, long story short, we don't have to enter data more than once. We enter it in one place and we link it. And that's actually a main theory behind the way databases work. We'll open the products table, and we're going to select the last record, Julie's pecan pie, and we're going to try to delete this record. We can right click and delete record. Now I right clicked over there because this clicking here selects the entire row, and then delete record. Now if we're going to delete a whole record, Access is going to question us on that, only because we don't want this to happen accidentally and in a way that we don't notice. We can change individual data without this prompt, but when we're doing a whole row we want to be prompted. In this case we really don't want to delete the data, and we'll say no. And now we'll close that products table. On the next step, we're going to compact and repair the database. Let's say you add a bunch of data, delete a bunch of data. In that one file, there's going to be gaps of nothing because of the way that Access is storing this data throughout the file. If you delete out a bunch of stuff, your file won't automatically shrink down. And that's because your file is locked and open, and it doesn't have a way to do that without causing a lot more data I/O. But sometimes we want to compact everything down. It's kind of like just cleaning up the clutter, and it actually repairs the database in case there's any inconsistencies. We need to make sure all of our fields fit within a certain number of bits. So it all happens automatically, and we don't have to work a lot on this. Now typically the way I always go is through the database tools, and I click on compact and repair. You'll notice that's an incorrect action. And actually if you go back and you look at the steps for this, you'll notice that they actually want you to go through the file menu and do a compact and repair over here. So we're going to choose that, and it will run automatically. It runs pretty quickly unless your file's really big. But it does need exclusive access to that file at that time, so you'll need to close out of your other stuff that you might have open. If you're using a file that's open by multiple users at once, you'll need them all to be closed out. We're also going to back up our database, so we can go into File, and under the Save As we actually have a backup database option. We'll double click that, and the default name includes the word backup at the end. So we're just going to keep that default name. It's a good idea to back up every so often because it is fairly easy to change data in this, so we want to make sure that there's no trouble by all these changes that get made. It's nice to be able to go back in time on those files. We're going to jump over here to this fourth record. We're going to select the city field, which is London, and we're going to use filter by selection. Now, we basically are saying we want to see all of the London cities. So we can go up here to selection, and we can say anytime the city equals London, those are the only ones I want to show. So immediately everything else disappears. It's not gone, it's just out of our view. We can toggle filter to bring it all back, but it makes it very easy to quickly look at just a subset of our data. Pretty similar to what we saw in Excel in the tables. Now in the second record, we're going to select in the customers table, we're going to select the contact title sales representative, and we're going to use filter by selection again to filter the data for records that have a title containing sales representative. It doesn't have to be exactly sales representative. It can be sales representative trainee, like this one up here. So what we expect to happen is that this record and this record will continue to exist. These don't have sales representative in them, so they will be filtered out. So we're going to say that it contains sales representative. It doesn't exactly equal, it just contains that information. Again, just a really effective way to zone in on just the data you want to look at. In the order details extended query, we're going to enable the filter by form feature. Over here under advanced, we have filter by form, and this clears everything out, and it basically lets us put back in the things we want to see. So in the first name field, we can do a drop down, and these are all the possible first names that would exist in that query. So we want Margaret, and we're going to press tab, and then in the last name field we're going to select Fox. You could type these in as well, but in this case we're looking to do a tab. And then we're going to go over to the criteria. We're going to add the criteria in the extended price field to say I'm not looking for a particular value, so I don't need the down arrow. I want all of the records that are less than 50. So now it's kind of like a formula. We press enter, and we can apply that filter by toggling it on. That toggle filter button, if it's ever highlighted, it means there's a filter running. You can click it and turn off the filter, turn on the filter, and toggle back and forth between the two views. We're going to sort the customers table by the city field. Easy to do, just like in Excel. We can right click on that and say sort order should be ascending. And now we're going to sort by the country field. It's obviously going to scramble this one up, but it's going to keep these in order as much as it can. It's almost as if this would be a secondary sort. We're going to open the relationships window. And here's where some of this power of access really shows, is the relationships between all of these different pieces of data that we have. Now before that quickly disappears, you could kind of see that there's a lot of different links between these tables. Now ideally, all of our tables have something to do with each other. For example, in this case, we have a bunch of products which are sometimes ordered, and we'll have an order details table that contains the product that was ordered along with the order that it went with. So we can do lookups based on how many orders for a product, or we can do lookups in the reverse, and we can see information about the products individually in a particular order. So all of the data is intertwined and linked. So we're going to click Show Table here. We're going to add in the Customers table to create a relationship there. We'll add that, and we'll click Close. We're going to save the changes. We can right click and save those changes. Those won't take effect until we actually choose to save them, because they're changing the design of this database behind the scenes. We'll save it, and we will close it. You can also close it up here. We're going to double click the order details extended query, and we're going to use filter by form. And in this one, we are going to delete the previous filter criteria, but as you're doing that, we're actually going to delete out Margaret, and we want Leverling to be the last name. So I'm going to delete Margaret, move over to the last name, and I'm going to switch that to Leverling. And I also want to switch this extended price to amounts greater than 2,000. Okay, that clicked in, and now I can go over here and change this. Sometimes my IT Lab pauses between each step. It's really just trying to detect that you made the change successfully. We're going to close and save the filter results. So I can save, well, I'm not actually saving the query, but toggling the filter will save those filter results. And now I can close and save. Now I'm going to open the order details extended query again, and I can turn on that saved filter. If I toggle that filter, it goes right back on exactly where I had left it. Now we're going to go back into the relationships window in this step, and we're going to drag the customer ID field that exists in orders, and we're going to drag it over to the customer ID field in customers, because the place that the orders table should be getting its customer IDs from is here. This is all the information about a customer, including this unique ID. Now, in the orders, an order must be purchased by a customer, so we're specifying the customer ID. But in every order, we don't have to say that that order was made by this company, this contact title. We can just key in on this particular customer ID and relate it to this information, so we can still find all of these pieces of information related to just that one little piece of information here. And that's what this relationship thing is all about. Otherwise, our order details would be huge all the time. But really, we only need to specify stuff that we haven't already specified. We're saying that the relationship between the customer ID and customers is a one-to-many relationship with the customer ID in orders. There's only going to be one and only one customer with a customer ID of a particular number, but that one customer can place many orders. And that's why we have a one-to-many relationship. And we're going to enforce referential integrity to make sure that we're only taking orders from customers. And we'll create that link. We're going to start Access, and we're going to create another database. And in this case, we're going to build a database based on a template. Now, Access has tons and tons of templates. If there's something you want to do in Access, somebody has probably already designed a starting point for you. In this case, maybe you want to make an address book. It's one of the more common starting points for a database, and it makes sense. So here's a desktop contacts starting database. We'll click on this, and we're going to name it A01H4 contacts. And click create. We don't need the ACCDB. It's going to automatically put that in for us. We're going to enable the content. We trust it. There's no reason not to trust it. It's just a blank template at this point. And then when we choose to use this template, there's a guide to get us started using this template, and it'll help us understand what all of these pieces are, and it'll help us enter data and customize our software. In the contact list form, we're going to click on New. In this particular template, there's a lot that's already built in here. All we need to do is click on New, and we bring up a separate form. In this form, we can enter all of our data, and it's a little bit of a nicer interface to use than the datasheet view. So we're going to type in Tanya, Tanya, and Machuca. And all the rest of the data will be populated for us. And now we can close that record form. If you're using a laptop or another small screen device, you'll notice that you can't always see the whole screen that My IT Lab has open here. So even if you try to drag it down, sometimes it just makes the whole thing disappear. So if you're in trouble with that in this particular exercise, do a save and close. Now we can click Open. It's not a new field anymore. We can make another if we wanted, but we're going to open the existing field, and we're going to add some new data. And we're going to say available Tuesday space dash space Friday 7a.m. to 4p.m. And then we're going to again save and close that form. So that's what a form would look like. It gives us a way to customize a data entry screen, or potentially a way to look up our data as well, and add and modify stuff too. We're going to open the phone book report, and you'll notice this one looks almost like maybe a printout page, and that's exactly what a report is for. It takes pieces of data, organizes them in a way that's most useful to us, and we can very easily print out these reports. We're going to open that report, and then we're going to click on the map button. We're going to actually open a different report now. This one's a directory report, and in this case the map button for Rowan Westmoreland is here. We'll click map, and in this particular report, that report is actually designed to an external URL, so we can find this person's address in Utah. It opens up a Bing map. We'll close Internet Explorer, and we're going to use the Directory Report tab, and we can close all of our open objects right from here. So hopefully that gave you a good overview of moving around in Access and kind of an idea of all these different pieces that we're going to be talking about in the future chapters. There's a lot of groundwork covered here, but in the subsequent chapters you're going to see a lot more detail in this program.